I was exposed to sexual content before I even knew what sex was. And if you're watching this, chances are you probably was too. Whether it was something you stumbled upon like me, something someone showed you, or just something you wasn't supposed to see. There's a kind of damage that happens to your mind and body when it's exposed to something way too soon. This video isn't about judgment, and it's also not about shame. And I've lived and experienced both, and I'm sure you have as well. This video is truly about healing and accepting that you have a problem or you had a problem, and caring enough to want to be part of the solution to this problem that is doing what? Plaguing the world. Hi, I'm Promise Israel, and welcome back to my podcast where we talk about everything, but today we're talking about being exposed to sexual content and how it affected me. So let's get started. I remember a time in my life where I was just like super lost, super negative. My heart posture was bad, my attitude was bad, how I looked at life was just bad. I was angry. For me, it happened when I was about 8 years old. So I'm at my grandmama's house, and I'm sure a lot of y'all had to go to y'all grandmama's house when y'all mama was working. And this is not to blame anyone, or this ain't for that. This just telling you my story. I'm at my grandmama's house. I go to the restroom. I'm like 7 or 8. I'm thinking I was 8, but hey, 7 or 8. So I'm telling you that because this can happen as early as 7 or 8. Your child being exposed to something way too soon. So I go to the restroom, and as I'm sitting on the toilet, it's this little stand in front of me, and I'm 8. So what I do what 8-year-olds do. I start rambling. So I'm going through drawers, just opening them up and closing the drawers and just looking through stuff. And I get to the last drawer. Boom. Some magazines in there. So I'm just going through the magazines or whatever. And then I stumble across this actual porn magazine. Y'all, I ain't never seen nothing like this. Honestly, I remember as a little kid, and I don't even know if this was before or after I saw what I saw. But let me just get back to the story and I'll tell y'all that later. So boom, I see a porn magazine. I start flipping through it. Why? Because I don't know. I'm 8, but I knew it was wrong. I knew these folks was naked. And I will never forget, it was my first time seeing, because the women were Caucasian. At least the Caucasian women caught my attention. And I think it's because their private parts look so different than mine. And that was one of the first things I thought about. So even at 8, for some reason, I thought to compare private parts because theirs were so light and pink. And mine was like, I'm sorry, y'all. I really don't know how to tell this, but so I don't want it to get weird. So maybe I should. Y'all get it. If you black, you know how your stuff look. And if you white, you know how your stuff look. And the colors are totally different. So I don't really know nothing about that. All right, so I'm flipping through it or whatever. And I remember every day after I saw that, going back to look at the same photos every single day. And I also remember going to do it when I got upset or something as a kid. So dopamine was obviously shooting to my brain because looking at this stuff, it made me feel some type of way. But I didn't ask to stumble across that magazine. So I'm saying that to say this. Y'all really need to be careful and mindful of the things that you're just leaving loosely in a house and there's kids around. Y'all got to make your homes kid-proof, baby-proof. What does that mean? Put any and everything up that can be harmful to a child. Those are not always physical objects. Sometimes that's stuff that you see, all right? That's stuff that you hear. So if you really just want to protect your children and just be considerate of the innocence of a mind, y'all got to put this stuff up. So I'm exposed to something way before I should have been exposed to it. Why? Because an adult in the house was on that type of time. What adult? I don't know. But now I know I got a habit. And I remember it starting there. Sitting on the toilet, going through the drawers that were right in front of me. So being exposed to sexual content too early, it is so detrimental because I found myself after that going down this porn rabbit hole. And you really don't know what you're doing, especially at 8. No, it's wrong, but something about it makes you keep coming back. And before you know it, you'll find yourself as an adult. And now you are truly, let's just be real. Let's just call it what it is. You struggling. You watching porn. So as embarrassing as that is to say, I know I'm not the only one who has dealt with that because I've been delivered. But that was not easy. Even accepting that about myself wasn't easy because you just really live in denial. And for a long time, I was so freaking pissed because I was like, dang, I'm watching this because blaming the 8-year-old promise that you gotta heal from that. I was still blaming that situation for my now porn addiction. And that's called being in denial. That's called being delusional. And that's where the enemy wants you. He wants you to stay in that same posture of sitting on that toilet at 8 years old, being a kid, coming in from outside after you just got done playing, going through stuff like kids do. And he wants you to stay sitting on that toilet watching that porn magazine. That's just where I was, where I had to say, you know something? Come on, man. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be watching this. And then it's so crazy because, well, let me just take you through the stages. Boom. So now I'm exposed to porn. I'm exposed to sexual content. All right. In the midst of that, parents, when y'all be watching certain shows and stuff around your kids, just to be perfectly honest, I was exposed to so much outside of my mom's home. Because my mama just was not that type of person. We didn't even listen to secular music that had a lot of curse words in it. And we couldn't watch certain stuff. We couldn't do certain stuff. That's just how my mama has always been. But when we was with other people and with other folks that she trusted, I'm not saying these folks purposely did that, but I'm just saying they was living and operating in a different way. And with us being there a lot, we was exposed to a lot of this stuff a lot. So parents, and just to let y'all know, a lot of times your support system is also the system that is detrimental to your kids. Support system is actually the separation system when you really look at it, because they not living like you, they not thinking like you, they're not even on the same type of time you on. And I get it, parents, y'all not thinking about that. Y'all thinking about, hey, I gotta go get to work, I gotta go make some money. I get that. This video is not to even come at parents. It's just me just wanting to make you aware of sometimes the environment that you're leaving your kids in is the reason that your kids are struggling in some of these areas, right? So boom, I'm exposed to sexually explicit content at 8. Then it just becomes a thing. So now I'm sneaking off into the bathroom, phones and stuff wasn't jumping. It was just same magazine. And then, of course, you start finding other little stuff. And then it's like a blank period in my brain. I don't remember much from sitting on that toilet to then being sexually assaulted at 13. So I think that being exposed to something way too soon, it could put a spirit on you or something. I don't know, because now as a kid, you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. You're being deceitful and you're lying about it. So even as a kid, now you're far from God. And I know people don't think about it like that for children, but the enemy can have your kids. And your kids could be in a spiritual battle that they don't even know that they're in. I didn't even know I was in a spiritual battle, right? I didn't even know that seeing that was going to change something inside of me. Seeing that was going to make me desire something that I don't even know what I'm desiring. My body is not even developed. But I'm just saying that's the start of it. And then as you get older, things just kind of start happening. Now being sexually assaulted, so someone coming on to me and touching on my private parts and stuff like that, this is something that could have already been happening. And what if I didn't even know it? Because what if I'm now exposed to something at 8 years old that now has me thinking in an immoral way at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old? But then at 13, something didn't feel right. But it's like a period that's just blank. So, okay. And I remember being like depressed at 8 and 9. I remember that. So now that I'm looking back, dang, this is my first time saying this out loud too. Now that I'm looking back, dang, so that dark spirit was on me during that time of 7, 8 years old. And that's the thing about exposure. It doesn't just disgust you. It doesn't just shock you. It changes you. It awakens something inside of you that's not supposed to be brewing and not supposed to be up, not supposed to be surfaced. So just be careful with, if you've been exposed to something too early and you might be dealing with like porn addiction or something like a sex demon or something like that. Those things are real. And I didn't get past any of that until I truly said, I'm sick. I don't like this. Like this disgusting. I hate myself. I used to say that. So in the midst of, and I don't even know if I want to blame homosexuality or porn, but I'll just say with sin or with being exposed or with doing things that you shouldn't do and conforming to it, it come with so much. So the enemy could have been working on me at 8. I was exposed to sex, and then now I'm being sexually immoral all the way up into my adult life. Thinking in a sexually immoral way and hiding it because I know this is disgusting. I know what I just saw was weird. But the more you watch it, that demon is getting full of juice. And then once that demon get what it want, which is whatever it is that you're doing, and then once it's over, now that natural person just jump back in your body and you like, what the hell? What am I doing? You wake up and you say, what am I doing? I'm just being real with you. Nobody wants to talk about how it starts to shape your world, your view on the world. And then you start connecting love to attention. And you grew up without a dad. I had a godfather, and thank God for him. He did the best he could. But I grew up without my biological father. I also grew up in an environment where it really didn't look like it was people who was there for their kids, men who was there for their kids, a whole bunch of single women raising all of these kids. I remember that. So when an environment is in survival mode, that means everybody around you robbing Peter to pay Paul, everybody around you pouring from an empty cup. This type of environment is detrimental to a child because the children in that environment are going to feel neglected because everybody around them is so busy. And it ain't nothing that I can do or say regarding my childhood because it's over it. I can't tell you this because a lot of people still living like this. When kids feel neglected, now they start associating love with attention because they need attention. Children need attention from their parents and from their loved ones. So as kids start to get older, right? And then now other things are being packed on top of that exposure to sexual content. Now sexual assault can be thrown on that pile, and also feeling depressed as a kid, and now going through puberty, and now changes within your body. This is a lot. I was dealing with a lot, and a lot of y'all kids are dealing with a lot. And what if we actually knew what to do and how to express it? I think about that all the time. What if I didn't feel afraid to tell my mama what I had saw? And then and why did I feel afraid? What is the enemy telling us, or what is going on in your environment that doesn't make you feel like you can tell the people who supposed to be protecting you the truth? Ain't nothing I can do about it, but I pray that my children, if it's in God's will, I pray that I have the wisdom and the strength to know how to have a safe space and establish a safe space for them, because maybe I didn't feel like I had that, and maybe I did and I didn't know it, because I'm also not trying to shame nobody. I think that a lot of parents are really just doing their best, and I think the support system is doing their best. People can only do what they know if they don't have the opportunity to grow and know something else. So as I started to get older, I lacked in setting boundaries as a kid. I used to notice when adult males would do weird things to me and on the low, because once the sexual assault happened, it's like my antennas was up. Boom, I ain't like how that felt. But then it kept happening, not necessarily with the same person, but I did not know how to set boundaries because I did not understand how to express what I felt. I just knew it didn't feel right, but I didn't have any words to describe it, and it didn't seem like nobody else noticed it, so I just didn't know what to do. But if you grow up and you become a young adult, and you are a young adult you're a young lady, a young teenage girl, and you don't know how to set boundaries, it's detrimental. And it's something that I've had to work on with talking to people, and just knowing that now I'm dealing with the aftermath of being exposed to something and continuing to expose myself, Because once you become of age, you know it ain't right. I knew it was weird at 8, but I kept going back to touch the stove. 10, 15 years later, you're struggling with something and you don't even know where it came from until you really sit down and look in the mirror. Oh, wow, this is like this because this was never addressed. That 8-year-old promise who was sitting in the bathroom, she was never addressed. Nobody ever said anything about it. And maybe it's because they didn't know. But I started to become of age and I really was struggling. And I was also afraid to get caught. And I never forget this. This is like I'm a teenager and I never wanted to be seen in a bad way. So I remember stopping because somebody around me had got caught and I saw what happened to them. And I saw they got a whooping, and it wasn't really like the whooping, it was like the disgust behind them getting caught. And I was like, oh my God, spared me. I thought about that as a teenager. God spared me. I got to stop doing this or I'm going to get caught too. It's just like anything that you're doing right now. You're not supposed to be doing it. Every day you wake up and you have like fear that you will get caught, a fear that you'll forget to clear the search history, or a fear that you'll, you know what I'm saying, because you're not supposed to be doing this. And so I stopped, and I don't even know how long I stopped for, but I'll tell you this. At this point, I've been sexually assaulted multiple times. I don't understand my body. I don't understand my identity. I'm struggling with my sexuality. I'm depressed. Come on. On top of this, I ain't talking to nobody about it. I don't even know what's going on. I think sports had just truly become my outlet, and that's real. A lot of kids are using the sports and the athletic or band or whatever it is they do. They using that stuff to escape because that gives them purpose, where whatever they doing and whatever they dealing with that's on the dark side, it keeps them in shame. So it's hopeful when they are accomplishing something that's actually good. And being a good athlete, it was making me feel like, okay, I'm okay, or just keep fighting. Keep trying not to watch this, or keep trying not to think about this, or keep trying not to be so sad, or get rid of the anger. But I just didn't know how to do it as a kid. Just to go ahead and be totally honest, you eventually become an adult and now you're in the midst of sexualizing everything, people pleasing, accepting things so you won't be alone. And all of this is stemmed from just being exposed to something way too soon. And then all the other stuff that I have told y'all about that was on me personally. You probably got your own pile of stuff that happened to you or that you was going through at that time. And all of this is just playing a major part in keeping you away from God. Because I'm not going to lie to you, as a kid, one of the things I'm thinking, we going to church, but we still coming back to this. 6 days out of the week, I'm seeing straight chaos. 6 days out of the week, I'm seeing people angry, people in a state of drunkenness all day, people on drugs. You know what I'm saying? I'm just seeing a whole lot of weird stuff, and then we go to church on Sunday. Of course, I didn't totally believe in God because it didn't seem right. I didn't understand what was going on. So, parents, you can't give your kids, if this is all you got to give them, then it's all you got to give them. But let's think about it. If you give your kids, or if you plant your children in chaos for 6 days and uproot them for 1 day out of the week, maybe 3 hours, and take them back and put them back in that same place you took them from for 6 more days, how can anything church related or God related stick? How? We're talking about immature children. Why are they immature? Because they're children. That's why it's a reason that people are children and people are adults. You don't stay a child your whole life. You have to grow into something. So as long as they're a child, they're vulnerable, they're impressionable, and they're hurting. They just don't even know how to express it. So, I just want the parents to, for a moment, think about what you can do better right now. If you still have kids at home, or how can you pour into the next person about how important it is to, pay attention to those kids and have your kids in a different type of environment. But anyways, I know for a fact in that magazine planted something in my head about women because I was seeing vaginas every day and boobs. And then when some of the magazines had men in them, I was like, whoa, how does this work? I remember, how does this work? And then eventually you start seeing it. Why? Because it's in the movies. It's on TV. And even if, because it was times where we could be at somebody's house and a sex scene to come on and adults will tell the kids to cover their eyes, but we could still hear what's going on. So I'm seeing it in a magazine And then my eyes are covered, but I'm hearing it. And so I'm piecing together how this thing go, right? If it's sex in these movies, y'all don't need to be playing it in front of these kids. They have ears. That's not a harmless thing. And then I remember telling people, tell you cover your eyes or put a pillow over your eyes. Children are peeking because they want to know why. They're inquisitive. And then you punish a kid for being a kid, but you really got this stuff around them way too early. And that could go for anything. If you smoking and drinking in front of your kids, and this ain't for judgment, it's just how can you whoop that kid for rolling up some paper and acting like they smoking? They doing exactly what they see you do. Some of y'all got y'all kids walking in on y'all during intimate moments. That's sad. That's sick. And a lot of times parents think, oh, maybe y'all don't think that in the moment. Well, you got parents who just don't think that kids remember stuff. Kids remember more than you know. And as they become adults, stuff will just start resurfacing and they'll know what that was at that time, although they didn't know what that was at that time. But you just planted something on your kid. So y'all got to be careful what y'all got around these kids. And I remember as a teenager one time, and my mama had a boyfriend. I ain't trying to talk about nobody, and I ain't trying to talk about my mama. So if my mama see this, mama, I'm not trying to talk about you. But in order to save souls, so boom, I'm in middle school, high school around this time. And we come home one night and my mama had an old man around this time. And if my mama see this ain't nothing towards you. And this is nothing that you did. But anyways, we go in the house and we had a gaming system. And my mama old man, he used to play the game sometimes or whatever. So we go in the house. My mama was finna run up the street. He was old enough to just kind of go in the house by herself. We turn on the game. We about to get on the game. A full-blown porn scene. They going at it. I never forget as an adult when me and my mama was not on good terms. I never forget blaming her. I was furious that I saw that on the TV, although I had already been seeing it though. But I was furious that it was on our TV. And I remember as an adult blaming her. How you go be talking to a dude who... You start talking crazy when you get grown. You talk to a dude who exposed us to porn. But I don't know how my mama handled that situation behind closed doors because she wasn't happy about it. I remember how upset she was. But I knew that I was struggling and I knew that I was just angry. I was angry that I even was in that. And so it's like parents, women, you got to be careful the type of dudes you're talking to because guess what? The spirit is now in the house with you, is in the house with your kids. And y'all don't be knowing what the person you talk to watching and doing and who they really are. It's a lot of stuff people that claim they love you and you love them. It's a lot of stuff they keeping from you. So I'm just saying, of course, you can't see and know everything, but just understand that situation was also detrimental to me. And I think my brother, my siblings were right there too. I'm not sure how it affected them, but I know for a fact I was upset about it. So I know this could be kind of patchy because I'm trying to tell you something that happened in my past and also tell you something that I hate to even think about at times. I hate to even think that I had an issue with that. But as I continue to get older, I realized that desiring to watch that or desiring the rabbit hole that porn takes you down, it starts off one way and then you'll look up, you watching all types of stuff. Some of y'all watching all types of stuff and you've watched all types of stuff. I've watched all types of stuff. It fueled my homosexuality lifestyle. It fueled it because I was never satisfied with being with a woman naturally because women were not made for women. So I was never satisfied anyway. But then porn, it gives you other options. It exposes you to even more of immorality. And I'm not promoting premarital sex. I'm not promoting none of this. I'm just telling y'all what I done been through. And I'm telling y'all how I had to fight my way into freedom. So freedom is available, but it's a fight and it's an embarrassing fight. But it's worth it. And I say embarrassing because I backslid so many times. I was good and then I wasn't. So if you're dealing with watching stuff you aren't supposed to be watching, you need to start asking yourself some questions. Look in the mirror, ask yourself, where did this come from? And be sober when you're trying to figure this out because in order to get to the root of an issue, you got to be sober-minded because God is hovering over you. Even though whatever you're doing is immoral for sure, But God is hovering over you. He's waiting on you to invite him in. So if you could just get sober and really get real with yourself and say, oh, how did this start? What doors have I left open from what I saw when I was too young? That was definitely the question for me. I had to go back and I had to unpeel the onion. And when you unpeel the onion, you're able to just see it all unfold. And I got right down to the root, which was sitting on that toilet, 8 years old, going through those drawers and finding that magazine. Boom. God took me right to the root. And I had to start working on that little girl. I had to stop being disgusted at that little girl who shouldn't have even been exposed to that in the first place. But that little girl grew up. And so she has a mind of her own now. And you cannot continue to blame what someone else exposed you to, or what you was exposed to, or something that happened to you, or whatever trauma. You cannot continue to blame that trauma for your actions, for your lifestyle, for your way of thinking, because healing is available. And I had to get real with myself. And listen, I'm going to go ahead and end right there for today, because this topic is a bit touchy. And I think all of my topics are touchy. I just want to try to always be honest with y'all about what God brought me through, what he's brought me through, and he's brought me through quite a bit. But one thing about sin, S-I-N, once you enter into it, it's a rabbit hole. It'll have you doing things that you said you'll never do, or that you never even thought of doing. All it takes is one little choice, and whether you make it prematurely or in an immature state of living, it don't matter when you make it, because sin has no limits. The enemy has no limits to who he'll go and try to touch. If you find yourself in a situation where you're battling with homosexuality, porn addiction, drug addiction, anything, drunkenness, fornication, adultery, all of that stuff, it comes from the same place, which is being far from God. I'm going to continue to pray for myself, because I don't want to backslide, and I don't want to be triggered to backsliding into any other things I've been delivered from. And I'm still working on some things here now currently. I'll see y'all next time.
Took me a minute for me to get to know you, but I'm here, and now I'm ready.